Hi guys, it's Lori the Uber Goddess, and today we're making pickles. And I have a very, very serious question to ask you. Can you boil water? Was that a yes? Because you know what? If you can boil water, you can make these freaking pickles, because guess what? They are the easiest thing to make. It takes like 10 minutes, and you will be a hero anywhere you bring these pickles. So the pickles we're making today are called bread and butter pickles, and we have made these in our family forever. Ever since I was a kid, I've been eating these, and I love eating them with meatloaf. I don't know why, but they just go really good with meatloaf. But anyway, the first thing you're going to do is cut your cucumbers really thin. I used a mandolin when I did it. You can buy a real cheap one, you know. Look at this. It comes with all different blades. It probably costs about $10, and it works really good. I'm adding cauliflower today, which I haven't done in a long time. I know one time when I made these, I put cauliflower and it was really good. So we're going to try that today. Anyway, when you get all your cucumbers cut, you have to soak them overnight in salt water. And there is a salt called canning salt, and it's with the other salts that you buy in the store. And you don't want to use table salt, because table salt, especially if you have iodine in the salt, it makes your pickles dark. It turns them a weird color. And also, table salt has an anti-caking ingredient in it, and it will make your pickle liquid like cloudy, and it won't look good. So you have to use canning salt. So what you do is you take about 1.5 gallons of water and 1/2 cup of salt, and you soak your pickles overnight. And these have been draining since about 2.5 hours. You know, you want to drain them really good. You know, you don't want all that salt water getting into your liquid for your pickles. So you have 5 cups of vinegar. You're just going to dump it in. And 4 cups of sugar. And I know that might sound like a lot of sugar, but you know, usually when you're pickling or canning anything, you have the same amount of vinegar and the same amount of sugar. That's usually, you know, your basic recipe. But what I do, and I've changed this recipe a little bit because I like these pickles a little zingier. So if you don't put as much sugar, they'll have more of a vinegar bite. And you know, if you make them and you think, oh, you know, I want them sweeter, then put 5 cups of sugar. 5 cups of vinegar, 5 cups of sugar. So what you're going to do is you're going to dissolve all your sugar in here. And I'm going to turn this burner on and get that heating up. So you're going to take your spices, and are you wondering why I have these spices in like bags? Well, you know what's really cool, and I know a lot of you on Facebook I've seen live downstate, and you have a local food co-op in your town, because they're all over Michigan. But our food co-op is so cool because they have like tons of bulk spices and bulk flour, and it's just so cool. You can go there and just buy this, you know. Like say you're making a pickle or you're making something that has a weird spice in it, and it calls for like a tablespoon. Well, instead, you know, you could spend like $10 on that spice if you had to buy a whole bottle. You go to a food co-op, it's like 50 cents. You know, that's awesome. So I'm going to measure out these spices, and you know, this recipe is going to be on the website. And any of you watching this, if you haven't liked my Facebook page, I just posted like the most awesome recipe for beans. And they're called calico beans, and they are so good. I just made them for my office Christmas party we had, and everybody just loves them. So you got to go on there and check that out. I got pictures on there, and it's step by step how to do it. So anyway, we're going to put 2 tablespoons of mustard seed in these pickles. And you know, you don't have to be like, as I'm getting mustard seed everywhere. As you can see, I don't really care if the measurement is completely perfect, but we're going to have 1.5 teaspoons of turmeric. Now, I'm going to tell you something about turmeric. Oh my God, turmeric is so good for you. You would never believe how good turmeric is. I actually have, every morning I eat honey, cinnamon, and turmeric. And I haven't been sick all winter, and I've been around sick people at work and I haven't gotten sick. But turmeric's good for inflammation. But one thing when you're canning with turmeric, you need to put something down on your counter because it'll stain. It's got this real orange color and it'll stain your counter. So I put 1.5 teaspoons of turmeric in there and 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. I think the cloves make these pickles really good. And I bought ground cloves. You could use like the clove seed or whatever, the whole cloves. But then you wouldn't want somebody like eating a pickle and getting a whole clove in their mouth. That wouldn't be very pleasant. Okay, and 1 tablespoon of celery seed. Okay, that's it. That's all the spices. And you're going to add this to your mixture. And we are going to boil this for 10 minutes. So once it comes to a boil, you're going to boil it for 10 minutes, and that'll get those spices in there and make your liquid like just so good. So we're going to let this boil, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes. So here's our mixture, and you know it's been boiling about 10 minutes, and just a slow simmer is fine. But what you're going to do is you're going to add your cucumbers in here, and you're going to think, oh my god, I got way too many cucumbers, but you don't. Just check this out. Look at, and they're still dripping a little, but you know you can't get all the liquid out of them. It just isn't possible. So what you're going to do is you are going to get all your goodness in here. And you're going to stir these. You know, you can, usually every time I've ever made these, I canned them. But I thought, one day I thought, you know what? I don't want to make 20 jars of pickles. I want to make like 1 jar and put them in the refrigerator. And what I noticed was they were so much more crunchy. Because when you can something, you have to put it in a hot water bath, and you have to hot water bath these for 10 minutes. And I think it affects the crunchiness of the cucumber when you cook it. So when you stick these in this brine, you are going to heat them through. You're not going to boil them. You know, don't boil them. You heat them. And I guess you could tell when they're heated, just feel them, or I don't know, eat one. But these pickles, the longer they sit in the refrigerator, the better they get. And you know, sometimes you can't wait. And I actually like ate them the day after I made them, and they were really good. And I had told Vic, I said, don't eat these. You know, I gave her a jar, and you can wait a week or whatever. And the next day she goes, oh, Dawn really liked those pickles. And I'm like, oh, I think I'll taste mine. And they were good. But the ones I got in that bowl there, that I'll show you what they look like. They're so good, and they've been in the refrigerator for like 3 weeks. But look at this cauliflower. See, it's changing color. That's the turmeric in your mixture here. Kind of changes the color of it a little bit. But we're going to let these sit in here. And let me show you one other thing that you should get. Anyone who cans has one of these. And this fits like right in your jar like that. You know, it saves a lot of mess. But if you go to look for one of these, you may have to buy, like, it's called a canning kit. You get this, you get the little thing to lift the bottles out of the hot water, you get a little magnet, so you'd be all set to can. But you might be able to buy this separately. I'm not sure, but this is a good little tool to have when you're making anything, you know, when you're putting it in a jar. I use it for other things too, you know, if I'm doing something else in the kitchen and I don't want to make a mess. And also, this is an olive bottle, which these are both olive bottles. I actually bought the big thing of olives so I could have the jar afterwards. This is really nice for the pickles. And all of these jars that I'm going to do, these lids are used. I washed them. And it's so funny because I made pickles like, it was like maybe 4 weeks ago, and I had some used lids, and I put the pickles in there, and it's sealed. I was like, what? Because you know, I usually always threw these away. And I was reading online that some people actually reuse these. I don't know if I'd feel real safe reusing them, but they're good enough if you're just going to stick these in the refrigerator. So, and when you give them as a gift, you just tell them, you know, refrigerate them, because they're not canned. So anyway, now you can see this is starting to look at see how they sink down. You would never think that you had enough liquid for the amount of cucumbers I had here. You know? Now if I just see, it's like lukewarm. So I want to get them like hot. So we're going to let these sit here for, I would say from the time you dump the cucumbers in to the time you just throw them in your bottles is probably about 8 minutes. Because like I said, you don't want to cook them. The other thing that I don't think I mentioned that I have in these pickles is red pepper and white onions. You don't want to use yellow onions. You want to use the white ones. They're so good in pickles. They're a completely different texture, and I don't know if you've ever bought a white onion, but they're not real strong. And you know, if you're going to make these pickles and you hate onions, you don't have to put onions in them. But I think the onions make it really good. Even if you hate onions, you'd probably like taste it and go, wow, that's pretty good. And you could put jalapenos in this. You can put whatever you like in these pickles. You know, get your experimental goddess on, like we're always saying. Anything you like. This is the basic recipe though that I've made my entire life. So you could put those little pearl onions in there. A lot of people like, my husband loves those. But okay, we're gonna let that sit, and then I'll show you how to put these in the jars, and that's it. Okay. Okay, so our mixture here is hot. So see how I got the bottle and I got this like over the pan. So it's gonna save a lot of mess on everything. But put newspaper down to protect your countertop, because like I said, this will stain. That turmeric in there is pretty much of a stainer. So we're just gonna dump these in here. And I got a slotted spoon here for this, and then I usually take my round one and fill it up. That was hard, eh? So we're just going to put the lid on this. This is an olive bottle. Look at, how awesome is that? I love them. So here's a canning jar that we can do. Like I told you before, you know, you can put your yogurt in these. You can just reuse them over and over and over again. Totally worth buying them. They're on sale a lot in the stores, especially in September when it's canning season. You know, I got tons of bottles because I've been canning my whole life, but you know, if you buy a couple, and oh my God, if you go to like the thrift store, you always can find canning bottles in like St. Vinny's or Goodwill. And then they're like, you know, 10 cents. So you just screw this on, put a little bow on there, give that to somebody, like one of your workers or whoever. Isn't that awesome? See what these look like? These have been in the refrigerator for, I'd say about 3 weeks. But they're crunchy. They're so good. You know, you can put these on a burger. I love eating them with meatloaf. Oh, they're just so good. You have to make these. And you know, my friend Jupe, I saw that video you made when you were making something in your house. Don't tell me you can't do this. So all you guys out there, make these pickles. And if you say you can't do it, well, doubt it, because I think you can. So until next time, keep smiling. See ya.